Okay, so a bit of a rant today. I went to a jiu-jitsu competition over the weekend, and it's like I knew a third of the people there. A lot of friends, a lot of teammates, a lot of people that I just kind of like just acquaintances, and I just saw a lot of things that, well, one thing in particular that really got to me, and I just couldn't shake it for a couple of days. So I had to make a video about it. So, you know, if you've watched my other videos, I hate people who like insult guard players. They want action, they want takedowns, and butt scooters and this type of thing. I think it's really stupid. But there's another thing that really bothers me a lot. And it's people who go to competitions, they lose, and then they complain by saying, "Oh, the guy he gamed the system, he played the points game, like because he won by an advantage, or and then they complain about it, right? That I think that's stupid for a variety of reasons. Okay, so I'll explain like this. Like there was one guy I knew who lost by an advantage. Okay. And then there was another guy who won by an advantage. Well, by 3 advantages, actually. Okay, so a lot of stalemating, a lot of, not much happening. And of course, if the opponents are similar level, that's going to happen. So the guy who lost by an advantage, he was complaining, complaining about the other guy and saying he didn't really do much. I couldn't do much. Yeah, but the other guy really didn't do much. He just defended and just kind of held me down, and I couldn't get any openings. And that right there is my teammates and I, we trained for those very specific situations where guys will stall, or they hold, or they bully you, or all the different things that happen in competition all the time. This is not special. It can happen. It's a very real possibility of it. And you didn't train for it. That's on you, bro. The guy who lost by an advantage, or the guy who won by 3 advantages, after the match, he was like, "Man, I sucked. God, I should have been able to do better. I should have been able to attack more. Why couldn't I do this, and why couldn't I do that?" Vastly different attitude. Okay, so let me ask you, which of the two do you think are going to get better over time? Obviously, the guy who takes responsibility, even though he won, not happy with the win. Here's another thing. The guy who lost, his friends and teammates around him were comforting him and saying, "Yeah, the guy was just holding you down, and he was stalling, and he just won by an advantage. That's not real jiu-jitsu. Like, you went for it, you went for submissions, and you did much better." Okay. The guy who won by 3 advantages, his teammates and friends around him were going, "Yeah, you sucked. You should have dusted that guy. You should have smoked that guy. Why didn't you finish your Berimbolo attack? Why couldn't you take the back? Why couldn't you at least come up for 2 points?" Very objective feedback, right? So again, I ask, which of those two are going to get better? Which of the two has the better teammates, right? I understand sympathizing, because I compete too, and I've lost a lot too, and I know how shitty it feels. And to have teammates who sympathize and all that, it's great, it's important. But to help the guy who lost, his teammates are they're encouraging this really bad type of culture, this attitude and this thinking. The other teammate, the guy who won, his teammates are encouraging better technique, more improvement, right? So it's obviously, who's going to get better, right? So this whole thing about like, don't play the points game, you should go for the submission, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if that's the way you want to do jiu-jitsu, fine. Go do a submission-only tournament. But if you're going to do IBJJF rules, you know the rule set, and you went into it, and then you lose, and then you complain about the point system, that to me is like, you're not committed to winning. You weren't committed, you weren't competing fully. It's either that, or you're making excuses, right? It's one of the two. There's nothing redeeming or virtuous about that type of mindset at all. It's total, utter fucking bullshit. I know guys who are like that. Like, I don't like playing points and I don't like doing jiu-jitsu like that. And that's okay if you don't compete, if you don't like IBJJF competitions, if you want to do submission-only competitions, all that stuff. That's awesome, okay? But again, here, let me ask you this. A couple things. Number one, who in the jiu-jitsu world doesn't like submissions? Who the fuck doesn't want to win a competition with a submission? Everybody wants to do that, okay? Our competition team, we train to win by advantages. We train to look at the clock and look at the score. And we have a whole coaching system. You know, when we're competing and we coach each other, we know what the strategies are. And we know like what we're working on, and what we're trying to do. We train for this stuff, but we all want to win by submission. I mean, who doesn't? I want to get an ankle lock. I want to get the back, and then I want to choke the shit out of my opponent, okay? When I go to competition, I get an ankle lock. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to break his ankle. Like, knowing how to win by points, knowing how to use, being strategic and using the point system to your advantage, that doesn't make you any less of a jiu-jitsu fighter. Not at all. I think it's ridiculous, this attitude, right? Here's the other thing. Where do most submissions happen? They happen from the back, or they happen from mount, okay? That's where most submissions happen. Well, guess what? IBJJF rewards those with the most points. You get 4 points for the back and 4 points for the mount. They are superior positions. What do good coaches teach white belts all the time about submissions? The very first thing I learned, position before submission, right? Get a strong position and then go for the submission. You can take it a step further and say, get the position, smother your opponent, wear them out, get them tired, and the submission happens very easily, right? Well, guess what? If you get those positions, you're going to score a lot of points. Getting those positions, securing the position, doing all that, wearing your opponent out, that's all part of the game. I don't see why going for submissions is against or contrary to playing, thinking about points and trying to win by points, okay? So I think it's just people who talk like that, I think it's either that they're not committed to winning or that they're making excuses. There is another psychological phenomenon. I've noticed this in myself, but some people have called it submission hunting. In MMA, you can call it KO hunting. The phenomenon is this. Psychologically, you're already beat. You've already lost. You have no intention to win. You don't even want to fight, right? You don't want to be there. You don't want to do the fight. You don't want to do it properly. So what do? You go for some crazy submission or some crazy KO, and either you're going to hit it and win quickly and it's over, or you're going to lose quickly and it's over. To me, it's another form of giving up. If you're in that mode, like, you need to figure out a way to get out of it, or, you know, if you're in that before the competition, don't compete, man. So there's that thing, and I think a lot of people should be aware of that and should be careful about it. And then here's the other thing, and I've had a hard time with this. I still have a hard time with it. It's one of the reasons, when I look at like going up to brown belt, black belt, and on, it does jiu-jitsu does get a little bit more boring. Okay, every seasoned jiu-jitsu person will tell you, if you ask them, white belt is the funnest time. And it's not, they're usually talking about how much you learn and all that, but it's not just that. It's like when white belts go against each other, it's submission after submission after submission. All kinds of craziness happens, right? It's very dynamic and fun. And this is, if you think about what UFC matchmaker, his number one job, right? What is his number one job? It's to make exciting fights. And how do you make exciting fights? Well, you mix up the styles. You don't put two wrestlers together. Can you imagine a UFC match with Khabib and a clone of Khabib? It would be the most boring fight ever, right? They'll put knockout artist after knockout artist, just brawlers, and that's always a fun fight. But then the fighters realize this is a stupid way to fight, so they stop doing that. You don't have any like real brawlers anymore in the UFC, right? You don't have crazy, stupid submission hunting idiots at the top levels of jiu-jitsu either. Jiu-jitsu at the highest levels is super boring to watch. Okay, I've said this before, and I have they know everything. Good guys, even if they don't know, a lot of guys who don't know a lot of good technique, they still feel that they're in trouble, and they know what part of their body is in trouble, what's being exposed, what's weak, and so they can compensate very quickly for it, right? And so you have attack, defense, attack, defense, attack, defense. Scramble, 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 stalemate. That's how jiu-jitsu, that's the natural progression. So to expect two good black belts to go into a match, into a competition where there's a lot at stake, and to watch an exciting, dynamic match, you don't really understand what jiu-jitsu is. It's not going to happen, right? For me, like, I'm so used to doing all kinds of dynamic, fun stuff from guard. You attack. As soon as you attack, you get exposed, and then that's what guys who, if they're better than you, they're going to use that to pass your guard, and so you start learning to be more defensive, right? And to be more conservative and to get better grips and stronger positioning. And all of those things contribute to making jiu-jitsu, to people who don't know high-level jiu-jitsu, it makes it look very boring. So this whole attitude or mindset about wanting jiu-jitsu to be dynamic and fun and exciting and all this stuff, go watch the UFC. That's not what high-level jiu-jitsu is. Now, what this means, and this is the way I think about it now, right? If you watch a kung fu movie, it's total fiction, right? Some guy using some weird technique and he can levitate and then fly across, 100 yards and then like chop somebody's head off with their fingernail and stupid shit like that, right? It's fake, but it's fun to watch. It's entertaining, right? Real martial arts is not fun and entertaining. So this is what this means. This means that jiu-jitsu is a real martial art. If you can fight like that, if you're a black belt or an upper belt and you can go against someone really good and defend yourself really well, and even though it's a stalemate, it means that you fought someone really good, and you should be grateful for that. You should be thankful for the opportunity to test yourself against someone like that, right? And it means that your jiu-jitsu is real. Like, you're really good and you got real skills. Because if you use those exact skills on someone on the street who knows nothing about jiu-jitsu, you would destroy his life. You know, it's a real thing. So every time I watch these matches, it is boring, and I usually just pay attention to details and what they're trying to do and stuff. But I feel grateful when I watch that, because I'm like, I'm part of a sport, a combat sport that is real martial arts. It's genuine. There's nothing fake about it at all. It's a lot of the exciting and fun stuff. That stuff is fake. You have to make it fake, like pro wrestling, like the WWE, right? It's all fake. There's real athleticism and all that, but they have writers who make up stories to make it more dramatic, and they do fun stuff to make it entertaining, right? So it's not a real martial art. So yeah, that's it.